What's happening? How much you guys paying attention to pickles? Because I was not paying attention very much. I just went to Sam's earlier today, and there was no pickles. I went to the place where the deli meats are. I went to the place where the cheeses are. No pickles. I went to the place where the cooler is, where they have other meats and things like that. No pickles. I thought it was weird, so I went to Walmart, right? And you're like, yeah, it's your... Not only was there no pickles, but the space where the pickles typically are, because it's a big jar. It's a large jar, so it takes up quite a bit of space. Completely empty. And I was like, this can't be a coincidence. Has to be something's going on. So I looked it up, and apparently there's a pickle shortage. Are you guys aware of this? I was not aware. I was not aware that there was a pickle shortage currently. Based on what I read, there was a decrease in manufacturing and also a decrease by 30% in recycling of glass, as well as an increase in demand. So more people shopping, more people keeping things that stay on the shelf for a lot longer, such as pickled products. I was not aware of this. Like, I understand that you may respond to say like that one time in March of 2020 where the shelves were empty to want to have more pickled products and more things that you could keep. But these particular pickles, and I don't mean like they got to be like halved pickles, not those bitch ass quartered ones, and not those weak ass halved ones that are smaller that are made for sandwiches or whatever. I'll decide if they're made for sandwiches, but the halved or whole, like, particularly we like the ones you have to put in the fridge, and they're not anywhere to be found. There's just like all the shitty options left, which for some reason I think the smaller ones, they don't pickle the same, because I think that maybe they use the same product in the mixture, and the smaller pickles just take to it differently. Smaller cucumbers, I guess, ultimately in the beginning, but not a big fan. Didn't know that. Didn't realize like at one time or another we were supposed to stock up on pickles, because apparently there's a shortage, and I was not aware of this. But anyway, just was curious if anybody else had to deal with that. Anybody, I know that people are stocking up for stuff like just to have in general, but I guess also over the winter. I had to meet with this guy here recently in the cold, in like the dead of the winter. It must have been one of the coldest days. It actually said at that time that in Denver, it was they broke a record. So the last time that it was that cold in Denver, it was 1899. So it hadn't been that cold in Colorado for 123 years. So it was cold as shit. And I'm a little bitch. And apparently I shouldn't say apparently, I don't like wearing hats. I've never been good at wearing hats. They don't cover my head right. I just don't look good. Some people have good heads for hats. I don't have a good head for a hat. I guess I'm lucky that I have hair. I'm lucky that whatever genetics I got caused me to have some sort of hair. And I don't normally wear a hat, right? And so I met with this gentleman, and I couldn't have been out there, because I looked at the clock. I couldn't have been out there for more than 30 minutes. So literally, I'm out in what my phone said was like 1 degree. My car was bouncing between like -1 and 1 degree. So it was somewhere around 0 degrees. And I guess, you've heard about frostbite, right? Like I've heard about frostbite plenty over my life. I've never thought that I had to like, I have an itch. I never thought that I had to deal with it. I never thought it was a big deal, but like I went out and I met with this gentleman, and again, probably not even for 30 minutes, but so let's just say less than 30 minutes, around approximately 1 to 0 degrees. And when I was done, it was weird. Like I could not warm my ears up. Like I've talked in the past about how I have this weird thing about how like I like to keep my ears like in my finger. It wasn't even like that. Like it hurt like shit. Like anytime that I touched my ears, they just hurt terribly. It was the weirdest thing. So for a good period of time, if I touched my ears or just in general, they were in pain, right? And so I was like, this may or may not be good. And then I went in the bathroom later on and I looked at it and they were red. So then I like looked it up, and I mean, some of the things on Google may be exaggerating a little bit, but it even said that like basically any temperature lower than 32, so basically anything lower than freezing, something Fahrenheit, and then you may have the opportunity to develop frostbite in a small period of time. So again, we were out there talking at somewhere around 0 to 1 degrees, and I just thought that you needed more time. I thought you had to be like exposed to the snow, or in the snow, or under the snow, or you know what I mean? Like you see that, like, I remember that movie when we were growing up, what was it called, like Vertical Limit, where the guy gets stuck. I don't know why I'm smiling. It's not a good thing. It was just a fictional story though, so it's not like anybody got hurt really that we know of. But there was that Vertical Limit movie, right, where like the guy was like, stuck in the cave, and like he had to boil snow to try to get water and things like that. And it's like, those are the type of situations where I expected people to get frostbite. I didn't think that going out and talking to a gentleman, meeting him at an appointment outside for 20 something minutes, so whatever 20 amount of minutes it was, around 0 degrees, and I was like, I seriously may have frostbite, because it wouldn't go away. Like, it was just this weird pain. And so I looked it up, and apparently the red skin, well, actually I just had to, you had to, basically look it up, but oh, I don't have it. That's nice. That's awesome. Well, I have other stuff, which is ridiculous, but I think I just wasn't prepared to share it. That's nice, huh? That's what you really want to hear. No. But, it says prolonged lack of feeling and red skin are results of frost nip. So have you guys ever heard of frost nip? Just like the great pickle shortage that apparently we're going through, which almost anytime somebody tells me that there's a shortage, I don't understand it, because I'm like, wasn't the issue that occurred in March of 2020 that we didn't have enough things? So no matter what, you would think, okay, create more things, as far as like there's going to be an increased demand. And I understand that there's, problems getting things from overseas and things like that, but you wouldn't think that we're shipping in pickles. But anyway, just like the great pickle shortage that I was not aware that we were having until I went to multiple stores here recently, and they just don't have pickles, which is crazy. And again, you may have like dill or whatever, but like the ones that go in the fridge, the ones that are actually like worth eating, not the ones that taste like, and I remember there was like times when we went to this like roller skating rink when I was younger, that they served pickles, or people, they like serve pickles at the drive-in, those like older, nostalgic type places. But other than that, not a lot of old shitty pickles that I'm gonna eat, unless it's like in one of those settings where it's just like, win in Rome type of thing, such as an old roller skating rink or a drive-in, which that's, a pickle was a snack back then, which a pickle's a fucking great snack, dude. I remember when I was Mr. Eating Disorder, but when I was concerned about my weight, pickles are fantastic because they have like nearly no calories. You get to like feel great about them somehow. I of course years later learned that like, calories are just energy, and you need energy, and especially if you're doing like large amount of physical exercise, you should probably have some sort of energy source. But ultimately, when I was trying to avoid calorie intake, just trying to not be a fatso, which is my constant goal in life, I think it should be, or is a lot of people's probably as well, just a matter of degree how much they fall into the traps of either the issue or the like on my end of like, say, eating disorder side. But what the fuck were we talking about? That's funny. I can't even make it 10 minutes without cussing. It's really hard. I don't know why. I can't. It's like impossible. But, the frost nip. So, yeah, I was not aware of this. Frost nip. So, say, for instance, what I read said that if I would have continued out in the cold for like a longer period of time than like, say, this 20 minutes, the frost nip can carry on into frostbite. And then the reddening gets worse. So, the reddening gets darker and looks more like bruise-like. And the the limbs, the lack of feeling just continues, or probably gets worse, or the pain gets worse. But I just thought that was crazy. I was not aware of this. I was not aware of frost nip, so never heard of that. Heard of frostbite a lot. A lot of times I've heard of frostbite, but apparently there's this small stage in between frostbite and, just this normality, which again, can happen within like 20 minutes. In my case, that's frost nip, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I learned that. Thought I'd share it with people. I thought that was pretty interesting. Otherwise, just don't be a fucking idiot. Like later on, I I had another appointment outside that day, and I just wore a hat. As cool as I think I am, I was like, I'd rather just have a stocking cap, and now I have an extra stocking cap in my car, and nobody cares, and so we're not going to talk more about that. But that was, good times. It's funny. I have this like nervous tick. I'll like look down and look at my phone, but who doesn't? I guess at this point. But yeah. Oh, another common myth that I had when I was looking up the whole cold thing, I always thought that, for instance, colder weather caused it not to snow so much, right? So like typically for the longest time I've heard in my life that if it's really cold, it's not likely to be snowing. Like if it's going to be snowing, it's going to be somewhere around, double digits or something in the double digits in Fahrenheit, right? So, but like the idea has always been if it gets too cold, it actually just won't snow. But I looked that up too, which is crazy. There is a sliver of truth in it, but it says it's just a common myth that actually colder weather causes it to be drier. And in fact, the result of the no snow is actually because of the drier weather that's created. So it's just like one of those things that I was, I don't know, you start looking into something silly like that. But it just said, colder temperatures cause dry air, and the lack of snow is a result of the dry air, preventing it from happening rather than colder temperatures. And I just thought that was interesting. You know how normally I don't know, my lips, I started licking my lips because they are just normally destroyed in the wintertime, and I can't stand it. It's so ridiculous, like the amount of chapped that you have to deal with. And I guess that's just life. I guess that's just part of like being in Colorado. But literally the other day it was like 16 degrees and it felt so warm compared to the 0 and 1. It's amazing how much that'll make you appreciate like 16 degrees. Like it was 60 and I was like, I'm getting sweaty, dude. Like I'm getting hot, and it's just like 60 is not, 60 is typically like where you still, people set their air conditioners at that. I don't know why that matters. Felt like it mattered. Felt like I needed to say it, but I don't know if it matters as much. But anyway. That's probably the closest I ever remember to like having frostbite. Another time, actually probably one of the only other times that I feel like I had frostbite. There was this night I was so my stepdad was out of town. I think my mom was still in town, but she was like working. She would always work at least from like 8 to 5 or whatever it was. And so my stepdad was out of town, and so I had some people over at my house after school. It was in high school, and I was going to be cheering at a basketball game that night. But these two girls had came over to my house, and we got really wasted, and we were like starting to stunt in my living room. So my living room was like 2 stories, right? So like rather than having like, the 9-foot ceilings, it was like as if the second story didn't exist, but the house still went up all the way. So we're wasted in my living room and we're like trying to stunt. So me and this other girl are like holding her legs, for instance, and she's up in the air and she's standing on them, and we threw her up. And when she came back down, she landed sideways on her hip on the side of the couch, not the side of the couch, the back of the couch. So like basically the backrest of the couch. She literally landed. Oh shoot! It's funny. I think the fucking mic just fucked up. But oh well. No, it's beeping. It just beeped again while I was talking. If it keeps doing that, we'll just have to fucking. That's weird as shit. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What in the fuck was I talking about before the mic started messing up? I don't remember. Must not matter. I was talking about that gal. So like this one time, basically I had dropped her. We didn't drop her. We threw her up in the air. So me and this other girl were holding her legs and we threw her up in the air. And when she came back down, rather than say catching her properly, she landed on her hip on the backrest of the couch. And then so like later that night, we went and I had like a basketball game that I was supposed to be at. So like I was cheering at the basketball game. I think maybe one of the other girls was with me, but maybe not. It could have been that like 2 of them didn't have anything to do with the game, but like I went in there and I was getting ready to get kicked out. So like my coach met me right at the back behind these bleachers, and she was like, I need to go get the assistant principal. He needs to talk to you. And I was thinking like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to stay here. And so I bolted out the doors. But when I bolted out the doors, I totally just heard something, which is the weirdest thing, but I guess it doesn't matter. When I bolted out the doors, it was like, I would say 2 feet of snow, like maybe 1 to 2 feet of snow. So for instance, I had to literally like high knee. I remember pulling my knees up as high as I could. And all I had on, because I just bolted out the doors, was like my cheerleading uniform. So for instance, I think it was made out of like polyester or whatever, but 1 layer of polyester shirt and 1 layer of polyester pants. And I'm high kneeing through the snow. And there was this area, it was the lowest point on our school, but basically the lowest point on our school. Above it there was a chain link fence, but in order to hold up that chain link fence there was a pole. So I start climbing up the pole that's holding up the chain link fence, and then I grabbed the chain link fence with my other arm and I pulled myself over the second story of the school. So like I was like, there's no way that if they're running after me to try to find me, that they're going to be looking at the school. They're going to be combing these nearby neighborhoods because they're going to be looking for me somewhere nearby. They're going to think that I ran, because the idea was I ran out the back door. So I just came right after I ran out the back door. I went back to the school, and I just kind of knew where the lowest area on the school was. So I went up there and like I tried to lodge myself. There was this like large rooftop unit. So like there was this rooftop unit that in between 2 areas was just large enough to fit my body. It wasn't quite as long as my body, but I just like shoved myself in there because it was just wide enough that I could fit myself in there. And I thought that the heat may be coming off this rooftop unit on both sides or another, with just my feet hanging out, I'd be able to stay warm enough. But again, I was drunk, so I just completely passed out. So it's like, who knows, super cold enough to have 1 to 2 feet of snow on the ground in wintertime. So whenever that is, and basketball season is typically in the wintertime. So I wake back up and I'm like, fuck, it's so cold. And luckily on a nearby rooftop unit that was like almost as large as my body, the opening on it, there was complete warm air. So basically it was like hot air blowing out this gigantic exhaust pipe. And I realized if I stayed under that, which was, like I said, very, very large, I would be completely warm. So like I stayed under there and I warmed up. But after a while I was like, fuck, dude, I gotta get out of here. Like I can't just stay on the top of the school forever. But the nice thing was I had like a super good perch, right? So like the cops were staked out at the edges of the parking lot, and I had drove my stepdad's truck because again, he was out of town that night. So like I jumped into his truck and I took it, and they were just staked out at like the edges of the parking lot, almost as if they thought that like eventually I'm going to come back to this truck and then they're just going to like just pull me over. So I remember standing behind this pipe that was like just as like wide as my body, but it was so hot. It was like oven hot, like where you couldn't touch it. But I would just put my hand like just close enough to it to where like I could warm them up, because again, I'm freezing my dick off. But I was like, I can't stay on the top of this school for the rest of the night, and I can't go back to that truck. But the whole top of the roof as well is covered in like 1 to 2 feet of snow, aside from like the ridge. So it's what we call a parapet wall, or excuse me, not the ridge, but like the perimeter. So the entire perimeter of the school, say like the top of the brick wall and like, you know, the perimeter of the entire roof is the only area that's not covered in snow, because for some reason it fell like on either side. So in normal cases, I would never want to walk along this like small, what's called the parapet wall, but ultimately it's like this tiny little foot space that it was completely covered in ice. And any other time I would have been like freaking out. I would have been like losing my mind over like the fact that if I step one way, I'm going to fall 2 stories. But eventually I was just like, if I step in the snow and even if I'm running along the roof, I don't even want to chance the fact that if I'm running through the snow, it's going to be loud, like it's going to make enough noise where they're going to hear it. So I'm walking along these tiny walls around the edge of the school, and eventually I just get this idea where I'm like, like I said, some areas there's like at least 2 feet of snow in the ground, but you know how sometimes when wind blows up against a wall or something like that, it kind of creates a drift. So there's probably areas where there might be like 3 or 4 feet of snow. So I'm just like, I can probably jump off. I'm like, I have to get down, and I can probably just jump off the top of this building and get myself down. And so eventually I just am like, all right, and I go for it, and I land in these like 3 or 4 feet of snow. And I have a friend that lived like basically across the street from the school, but it's in the middle of the night, right? Because like everybody had left the school aside from the cops, and everybody's gone home and gone to bed. And I'm like knocking on his window, but his parents' window is right above me. So I'm trying to knock on his window and wake him up, but not wake up his parents right above him. And ultimately he did wake up, and he like let me come into his garage, and he let me wear a jacket for a minute. But he's like, dude, you can't fucking stay here. He's like, no way I'm letting you stay here, because he knew how much trouble I had gotten in, because he was like, the cops are obviously looking for you. They want to charge you because you were underage, and they think that you were drunk, and that's why they were trying to find you. And that was why I ran in the first place, because I was like, I'm not going to let them give me a fucking breathalyzer and prove that I've been drinking or whatever it is. And so he was like, you can't stay here. There's no way I'm going to let you stay here. And so I was like, well, and I didn't have my phone or anything. I didn't have anything because I just ran out the door. I did have my keys. So the keys had keys to the house at least. And he called one of our other friends. So that girl that fell on the couch earlier that night, which is funny, years later, you think I would have learned? You think that when she fucking landed with her hip on the backrest of the couch in my living room, I would have learned, one, we probably shouldn't stunt when we're drunk. Stunting when drunk is a bad idea. Two, probably shouldn't stunt in a house with furniture. Like, there are gyms that are indoors and plenty of places indoors where people can practice, but you probably shouldn't do it in a living room where there's a bunch of furniture, especially if you don't move the furniture. But like years later, we were drunk again, and I remember I was hanging out at a party with that girl, and we tried to stunt, and I threw her up in the air, and our timing must have just been like perfect, because it didn't make sense that she did what she did, but she went so fucking high that she smashed her head into the ceiling just like so ridiculously hard that nowadays I'm certain that I'm sorry to be laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. She definitely got like a concussion. Like, nowadays I know that hitting your head that hard, and her neck's probably fucked up, but you think I would have learned. But I remember years later I was like in another house, and it wasn't quite 2 stories because obviously I can't throw a girl that high, but it was clearly over 1 story, and we were like, there's no way we're gonna hit that ceiling. But we just had like the perfect timing, and when I threw her up, she fucking slammed the top of her skull into this ceiling, which again, it's not funny. Like, I remember one time I actually was at the drive-in with my son, and we were getting ready to leave the bathroom, and I tried to throw him on the top of my shoulders as we're leaving, and I didn't remember that like this place was created in the early 1900s, and so the ceilings are so goddamn low, and I slammed his head on the ceiling, and it was not funny. I feel bad about it to this day. I remember we've talked about it for years. It's like this huge regret of mine, so I guess it's not as funny in that poor girl. But anyway, yeah. So she comes and picks me up. Actually, she and one of my other friends came and picked me up, and they like after I had stayed in my friend's garage for a couple minutes with his jacket on, because again, he just let me put his jacket on and stand in his garage, but he's like, there's no fucking way I'm letting you come to my house. This girl comes and picks me up, and she drops me off at my house. And luckily, again, because I drove my stepdad's truck there, my truck was at home, so I had my own vehicle that I could just leave. But I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. So I was like, hopefully I'm sober at this point. But I jumped in my truck and I drove to Denver. And I remember I probably hid out there for at least 2 days. And by hid out, I just mean that I like stayed there because I didn't want to talk to the cops and I didn't want to get in trouble. They ended up writing me a ticket. It was called like in our town, they would give these tickets for if you were drinking underage, called minor in consumption. So they did give me a minor in consumption, even though they never talked to me or gave me a breathalyzer or anything like that. I can't remember if we ended up getting that, because my mom and my grandpa and stuff were so nice to pay for lawyers and stuff for me over the years, and I can't remember if they ended up fighting that one. We may or may not have. It was at that point, it was not even who cares, because I'd gotten so many of them. But I almost forgot why I was talking about it. Oh yeah. So I was at my dad's, and I just remember I absolutely could not get warm. Like for 2 whole days, there was literally no way to get myself warm. So like, no matter how much I tried to like warm myself up, I was just unable to, be comfortable or just catch any warmth. So I'd say that's the only other time that I've ever been close to like thinking that I had frostbite, but I didn't lose a limb or anything like that. And I think it was just from the heat that I was able to pull off those rooftop units and exhaust pipes and stuff like that. But just probably the only other time that I came near that, but I didn't realize how easily you could get frostbite. And then again, that there was this stage called frost nip, and I don't know how I avoided getting that night. Probably just this time I just having the feeling, when you're drunk, you have that lack of feeling that you basically don't have to deal with. And so, yeah, at least I didn't have to, feel it that first time around. But this is the only other time. I'd be curious to see if anybody has any good frostbite stories. By good, I don't hope that they end in losing a limb, but I guess they're good if you got as close as you can to losing something, but not. But again, it was weird. I just had this like extended pain for the longest period of time in my ears, and there was nothing I could do to warm them up. Like touching them just made them hurt. It didn't help in any way. But I will be right back with you guys. I'm back. I guess this is just an episode of things that I didn't know. I guess it's just basically a public service announcement of all the things that I was not aware of. But another thing that I just saw recently that I had never fucking seen before, how common is needle disposal in public restrooms, right? So like, I have mentioned it before, but I've done that DoorDash as like a side hustle thing. So for instance, try to go make some extra money delivering for DoorDash, and it puts me in these like fast food restaurants. If I had more money, I would go to fast food restaurants, probably just, as a breakdown of my, battle with myself. But, other than that, I'm using these, say restaurants or fast food, establishments of their bathrooms. They have like biohazard needle disposal containers. And my thought is like, how many times do you take out the trash before you decide, hey man, we should probably purchase a biohazard needle disposal for the public restroom here? Like, I don't know why that gives me a feeling like right here, like either I ate something weird and it's indigestion, or that just, it doesn't make me feel right. Like something about that, to know that like, I can't feel negative about it. Like I get it. I get there. It's supposed to be a good thing to like help these people because they're gonna do it. They're clearly, because again, how many times do you take out the trash with old needles in it before you're like, I need to put this? Or is it just, am I just vanilla? Am I just lost? Is it because I personally am not in these establishments that often? Do they all just have this? Is this just a normal thing now, that in addition to a trash can, there's also a doctor's office style biohazard needle disposal bin right next to the trash can? Because again, I mean, I understand that the idea is they're going in there and they're gonna do it no matter what. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have a clean place to throw it up or throw it away. And obviously if they put it in the trash can and somebody's taking that out, you don't want the needle poking out the sides. But I just think, have I just been looking past this? You know what I mean? Have I just been not paying attention to this and this has been around forever? I just was not aware. I was not aware. I almost want to look it up. Like how common is that? Because, you know what I mean? Maybe this particular, sadly, the area that I was in that I first saw it at, it is an area where like there's homeless people all over outside the place. You know what I mean? So it's like, my thought was it may not be like my first thought was it could be like a corporate standard. You know what I mean? Like all Panda Expresses or whatever it is, all fucking Chipotles or whatever it is, they have this in the bathroom as just a standard. They just always put that in there. They just rather have it in there. It's safer for their employees because obviously, again, you don't want these needles poking out the bags and then they're taking the bag out with just some gloves on and it's going to stab right through their glove and the bag. And so my thought is just, how common is needle disposal in public bathrooms? Enter. Why are there secure sharp containers in public? This is actually not long ago. I guess this is just a few months ago. Miri. I don't know what Miri is. Miri. MERI in business since 1985. It said millions of Americans dispose of sharps from diabetic or allergy injections in the restroom of high traffic places. Okay. So they're not even addressing it. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but most of the diabetics that I knew of and stuff, they have like, they're used to that. They have a place, you know what I mean? Like as an example, my grandpa always had like, his office or is like, he had a place where he did that kind of stuff. So it's just like, it seems like the public bathroom is the area that say you're going to be going. I'm not saying people don't run into it. Okay. But there you go. I guess that's the thing. Cause you can just say, well, there's a lot. Oh, and then so later, I guess it does say, unfortunately, the drug epidemic in our country has also contributed to the needle use in public areas. Secure receptacles for sharps are not always guaranteed, and so the result of improperly discarded medical waste, which poses a jarring threat to safety of the patrons and employees in these public spaces. Because of this, grocery stores are now opting for. So it says like major Wisconsin convenience and grocery stores are going for rugged sharps disposal containers. So I guess it's this company that's trying to sell them. But wow, yeah. So that's what I was wondering. I didn't know if it was like, because I don't see them all over the place. I don't see them everywhere. But I don't know. Apparently it's a thing. You guys should tell me if you knew about it. If like you've every place that you go into, every public restroom you go into has them. And again, I guess I should have been more rose-colored glasses and thought about diabetics and allergy injections. But if you're doing like an EpiPen or something like that, aren't you going to be like, we don't give a fuck where you put it in. Like, you just get that shit in you as soon as you possibly can. You do not need to run to the bathroom. If you're having an allergy attack and you need your EpiPen or whatever, dude, just stab that shit into you as soon as you possibly can. We do not need you to run to the bathroom, but I guess it'd be nice if after you fucking wake up or come back to, you had a place to put it in the bathroom safely, a needle disposal area. But that could be, I guess. But again, I wouldn't. Yeah, cool that they're doing it, but crazy, right? I mean, it's like eventually Breck's gonna ask me about that, right? And do I, you know what I mean? Like, you just give all sides, right? Because I was gonna say, which side do you give? Which side do you tell your kids? Do you say, well, there's just lots of diabetics who are constantly giving themselves injections of insulin because, you know what I mean? Or there's allergy people that, for instance, if you get stung by a bee or you eat a nut or whatever your particular allergy is, you may need this shot immediately in emergency situations out in public. And so it's like, I was going to say, do you tell them that, or do you tell them, okay, well, you know how it just seems like there's a lot more people that are just on the streets for no reason, and there's just a lot more people that seem to be camping outside of all these grocery stores that we go to? They sometimes use drugs. You know what I mean? It's just like, I guess it doesn't sound that bad. I don't know. It doesn't sound fun or good or happy or funny. It's just, I guess an unfortunate truth. But yeah, cool. So didn't know that. Do you guys know that? Tell me if you knew that. Tell me if it's normal where you're at. Tell me if most places you go into you have that. It's funny, some of these web pages are so bright, it like changes my face entirely, right? Like if I went back, to a darker page, it changes it. It's weird. It's all good. It just changes the light in here so much. I guess it's expected. You're like, yeah, dude, you opened up a computer. Sometimes computers express light. They make glasses for that. It's blue. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, I got it. But, I don't know. Yep, just didn't know that. Kind of sucks. Just didn't really realize that was something that we were dealing with. But yeah. You know, another thing I read, and I could probably try to pull it up, try to find out exactly what it was. The article was basically just saying that that jacked guy at the gym, hold up, he may have an eating disorder. And my whole thought was like, fucking yeah, dude. Like, I mean, let's just say for the sake of this conversation that I qualify as a jacked guy, and that may mean that I'm delusional, or it may mean that I just need to take more pictures with my shirt off. Dude, this week I had like fucking seven croissants. I ate 7 croissants this week, and like an entire school of Sour Patch Kids. It's terrible. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. Sometimes I just literally go nuts. You know what it was? I was getting ready to go shopping, right? And I was like, I need food. And then my thought was like, I really have so much fucking food that I just don't eat. And I was like, what if I just like took the stuff that I have and I tried to eat that? And you know what I mean? I have like those rolled up, you know, pre-made doughs in the fridge, and I have it, which is like, you're like, dude, that's why you don't eat it, because it's terrible for you. You're putting paste in your body. We don't all eat paste very often. No, my thought was just I should fucking try to eat some of this food that I have in the house. But why was I talking about that? I don't know. You're like, dude, we don't know either. I wish you weren't. I really wish you weren't. No idea. Oh yeah, the idea was like, they were like, the jacked guy at the gym, you know what I mean? So if I keep eating the croissants and stuff like that, I certainly won't qualify, but like, let's say I qualified for now. And it was like, may have an eating disorder. And it's like, I mean, my thought was like, duh, like how else would I have gotten this way? Like the whole thing that led me to fitness and led me to care about myself in the first place was clearly having a problem. You know what I mean? I mean, I've talked about it before, but I certainly had trouble with like bulimia when I was younger. And I mean, I would say I've probably struggled with my weight and an eating disorder my entire life. And it's just like the whole reason I started doing fitness in the whole first place was because I was like, well, I can eat trash, I can eat donuts, I can eat whatever the fuck I want, and then if I just work out enough, it's not gonna kill me. You know what I mean? The idea is I'm doing the right amount of work in order to earn these type of things. And then you get kind of more into it, and you get like more into the community, and really you realize that all the people that are truly being healthy for themselves are not only working out, not only doing plenty of physical exercise for themselves, but their diet is also right. And it's like, really, so it's like, if you cut out the carbs and cut out the sugars, and especially the refined sugars like candy and shit like that, and you know, the what is it, I forget what kind of carbs they are, like but like, you know, cereals and breads. But yeah, oh, that was like the whole idea. Yeah, I was like, but I mean, of course, dude, it's like that's how I got here. You know what I mean? So I just like, I don't know, it seems like a silly thing though. It's just like, how can we, anybody that's really starting to focus on their weight and starting to focus on health and fitness and things like that, you don't, I mean, yeah, it may, I guess it could be considered negative in some ways or another, but I don't know, man. So is fucking eating a shitload of bread all the time. So is eating cereal all the time. So is eating pasta and pizza every day. So is, you know what I mean, eating ice cream all the time. Like, it's like, people also need to learn that you just can't do that shit all the fucking time. You know what I mean? Which is hard. And again, I'm gonna be like White Goodman, dude. I am straight up White Goodman. I know it. It's terrible. I'm like a yo-yo dieter in that sense. Like you know, where he's if you haven't seen it, everybody's seen it. Dodgeball, the true underdog story, but where the guy from Globo Gym that's played by Ben Stiller, he basically is like super duper fit, and he's like electrocuting himself when he's eating the pizza and stuff like that. But then later in the movie, he's like 600 pounds. That's totally me. If I continued my behavior over the last couple days, where I ate these 7 croissants and all these Sour Patch Kids, you know what I mean, and that would be it. But I just think, what a crazy thing to say. Like, what, I can try to look it up, but the jacked guy at the gym may have an eating. How cool is typing over the mic? Does it sound pretty awesome? It doesn't bother me because I'm typing, you know what I mean? So I can feel like the feedback on my hands. But Jack, the guy at the gym, may have an eating disorder. There's a quiz. I'm not taking the quiz. I would fail that fucking quiz. Here it is, 4 days ago. It says the muscly guy at muscly. I pronounced the C in muscly. The muscly guy at the gym may be at risk for an eating disorder. Experts say. When he told his family he had an eating disorder, they chuckled in confusion. When he brought it up to his doctor, he was told he missed it because his doctor never would have thought he was at risk. I'm getting tired of reading it already. Started speaking his experience publicly when audio. Okay, so it sounds. I mean, because I'm feeling like his parents at this point. I'm feeling like, what are you talking about, dude? What, you know what I mean? Oh, let me slam. Yep, let me slam my hand into fucking everything. Let me just break everything. What an eating disorder looks like. When thinking about someone with an eating disorder, many people think of a girl or a woman who restricts food, exercises excessively, and is secretly binging and purging. That's fucking me, aside from the woman part. That's totally me. Every bit of that. Restricts food. Yep. Exercises obsessively. Yep. Secretly binges and purges. Less secret because I just told you about it, but yep, just happened. Totally. Men can experience eating disorders in that way. Medical director for the program of eating disorders at Toronto General Hospital. Men feel pressure to conform to few masculine body types. Okay, I hate this already. I don't know why. Some of those ideals encourage men to limit their calorie count, but others are the opposite of encourage excessive workouts, overloading protein, and heavily restricting nutrients like fats and carbs. I was just talking about restricted carbs. I don't restrict fats as much. You know what's crazy? The people that don't like mayonnaise, dude, I fucking love mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is so good. And if you think this is nasty, then I don't care. When I use a spoon or a knife, oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I lick that knife, dude. Oh yes, I lick that spoon off. Like 100%. 100% do I lick that spoon of mayonnaise after I use it. It's so fucking good. Or people that say they don't like it, get out, dude. It's so good. But my point of saying that is I do still eat fats. Like I certainly eat fats. Like I try to eat I try to grease pans and stuff with like pork fat, just because I feel like animal fat is, I don't know, somehow better for me or whatever. And then, I try to definitely get fats. I mean, I wish I should buy more avocados, which is fat, right? I mean, but I definitely, I guess what fats do you restrict? What fats would you restrict to be considered an eating disorder? I don't know. I can't think. I mean, I thought that was more of like old knowledge. You know what I mean? Like more 90s style knowledge where they were saying to restrict fats and stuff like that. I think more nowadays it's definitely the carbs. But it said to, become an eating disorder. Yeah. I don't know if I buy it. It says they're hard to treat. Why we aren't hearing about it? Stigma and exclusion. Nah. I don't know. I had read that. I thought that was weird. But my thought was just like, one, it just seems like more obvious. The more I read this actual article, it sounds more like, because I obviously didn't read too much of it. I just read a little bit of it and then made my own opinion. And I'm thinking about it and just recalling it now. But the more I read the article, I'm not sure if that individual technically has an eating disorder. Or if they do, I definitely do. I should say that. But I almost agree with the parents that just say it's like not that big of a deal. And again, this is super bright. Maybe I should just plan for that. I don't know. That's not, you know what I mean? I guess you can't really do that. But who cares? Why they're hard to treat. No, nobody cares about eating disorders and why they're hard to treat. Many families and doctors still aren't familiar with the signs of eating disorders in boys and men. Teen boys are human locusts who often demolish every bite of food. I'm sorry, I know I'm not speaking into the mic. I guess I was trying to somehow get closer to that food while I was reading to it. Food? You weren't looking at food. You were reading an article. Jesus. What's on my mind? See? Clearly, I mean, I know I qualify. I'm not going to try to pretend like I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I guess you just sometimes, you get from the response you get from your parents isn't always what you expect, right? Like I remember my parents telling me things and I'd just be like, yeah, but you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like it's so awful. Like you discount them so much when like until it just takes like life and experience for you to realize that they had your best interest in mind and they were just trying to help you. But otherwise you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that happened to you, but that's because you're dumb. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna happen to me. And I feel like every situation that I ever had that with, it still happened to me. You know what I mean? Like, I just had to go through it myself. I think my son's like that too. I don't think I can warn him to not go through things. I think he just needs to experience them himself. And unfortunately, it's like experience is like the one. It's like one of the best teachers. It seems to be, which is I guess I'm not. The frost nip thing I thought was new. The pickle thing I thought was new. What was the other one? I don't remember. The other thing I thought was new, that I don't think is that new. I don't remember what I'm talking about anymore. But, dude, do you ever like, so like you date a girl, right? And like she's really attractive, or you like spend time with the girl or whatever it is. She expresses some sort of interest in you at one time, and you think particular taste says that she's like really attractive, right? And so you think somehow more highly of yourself almost because you're like, well, this girl is really attractive and she likes me. And you're like, well, then that must mean that like I have some sort of stature, or I have some sort of, I don't know what to say. Like, I guess maybe I'm hot shit because she likes me. But then like later you see them date like somebody that's like totally filthy and disgusting. And you're like, wait a minute. Does that mean I'm disgusting? Like, you're like, was I attractive like they're attractive, or do they have a horrible taste in people and I'm a part of their horrible taste? Like, do you ever just wonder that? Are you ever like, at first, you get this idea where you're like, yeah, like I'm the shit, like I'm really, swung for the fences on this one, and like it's only because I'm so, great. Again, the idea is just that you're great. I can't think of any good metaphors, unfortunately, but and then you realize later that like, oh, like they just date like fat, gross people, and you're like, well, fuck, I was pretty fat and gross at that time, really. And it's like, is that their thing? Like, I don't know. It's a dumb thing to say, but I thought that. I was looking at that. I thought that was just fascinating how you can really, maybe I shouldn't, maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's the lesson to be learned. The lesson to be learned is maybe I shouldn't put so much weight into that. Well, of course, I guess ultimately that is a good lesson in the sense that like you don't want to put so much weight into what other people are thinking. I guess it's different because again, I held them to such a high degree. So when you hold somebody to such a high degree, or like some movies have put it in a negative way and say like, oh, put them on a pedestal. I almost said the whole thing, but if you put them on a pedestal and then then you get the opinion from them. I guess you almost hold it to a higher, like it's almost more. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, but. Yeah. Yep. Just thought that was fascinating. I guess that's that's what I was saying is I guess the idea is just don't maybe put so much weight into what other people are saying. Even if you think they're great, maybe try not to get so worked up about what other people say. I mean, I know that's obviously it's easier said than done though. You know what I mean? The whole thing is like, you'd be better off without other people's attention and without like, right, like social media and everybody constantly trying to chase likes and chase, eyes and chase attention. But it's like, it's also the game. It's also the whole deal, So speaking of that, like this video, subscribe, hit the bottom right hand corner of the video, and please subscribe. I'm not going to flash any shit over the screen. I'm not going to do it like the fucking Minecraft kids do where they're like, subscribe, Sunday, or subscribe. You know what I mean? Like I'm not fucking that Simpsons episode. But yeah, if you're here, do that. Don't know why I got into that. I hate it so much. That I can't I can't even think of what I was talking about other than that. You know what? Another thing. So I will often, like when I'm at my house, I can't stand walking on my jeans, right? So like I can't stand it if they go under my heel when I'm walking around. So I'll roll them up. I'll roll up like the side of my jeans, and that's actually like the fucking like the hip, like hipster, like cool thing to do, right? Like you see the hipsters and the cool people like rolling up their jeans. But no matter what, if I leave the house, I fucking undo the roll. Like I can't do it. Like, because once I put shoes on and I walk out the door, I'm like, there's no way that I can pull this off. Like, because I just feel like, I don't know, I might do it sometime. If I have nice shoes on, if I have really nice shoes on, I think that's the whole deal, right? The whole idea is basically like, these kicks are so, I was going to say fire, and I just, before I even got the whole statement out, I hated it already. So I'm not going to say that these kicks are so fire, because that's just not, it's not me. I wouldn't say that. But the idea is they're so cool, right? Like these shoes, these sneakers are so badass that even the bottom of my jeans, or if you're Dr. Dre, the bottom of your, khakis with a crease, shouldn't be over your shoe. You know what I mean? And so like that I get. So like sometimes if I wear like Jordan 1s or whatever, I'm like, okay, I could leave the house. Potentially I could totally leave the house and roll the bottom of the jean, right? But I can't do it. I just can't fucking do it. No matter how bougie I try to dress. Like one time, this guy passed away, right? And I think like he did like the album cover for I can just look it up because of that. But he did the album cover for Kanye on, what is it, like The Dark Fantasy or whatever. The Dark Fantasy. I don't know how to spell. I'm stuck on fantasy. I'm at the T. Fantasy. ASY. The Dark Fantasy. What was it again? The Dark Fantasy artwork. Artist, I guess. I'm pretty sure it was them. Oh, damn it. It's bringing up all this like fucking Dungeons and Dragons shit. The Dark Fantasy, the Kanye West album that came out in like 2011. The Dark Fantasy. Do I really have to say Kanye? Come on. Well, you would just think like no matter what. George Condo. Was it George Condo? Probably fucking not. Dude, doesn't matter. Apparently I heard wrong. Doesn't matter. The whole idea was that when this gentleman passed away, apparently he had this saying, and his whole saying was like, you save all that nice stuff. So you know how I was saying like sometimes I wear my Jordan 1s, sometimes I wear them out. I don't wear them that often. They're nice shoes, so I only wear them for like special occasions, right? And he was saying like, wear your shit. You know what I mean? Like you that's not why you bought it. You didn't buy it for it to sit there. Like wear it, And I still never do. I even tried to wear a jersey today and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because it was so baggy. I was like, how do people do this? Like they're so fucking bagging off me. You know what I mean? Like my mom bought me this jersey that has like my name on the back of it. And I tried to wear it and I just couldn't do it. Maybe I'll wear it next week. We'll see if I can bring myself to do it. I just couldn't do it. I was like, it's so baggy. You know what I mean? Like for some reason, baggy clothes I don't like them as much. I feel like such a fat shit already. Like I just don't need the bagginess. You know what I mean? But yeah, he just said like wear your nice shit, and so like sometimes I will actually, but even still, when I'm feeling that badass and I'm feeling that bougie, I can't walk out with the bottom of the jeans rolled. You guys should tell me, is that just the style? Is it the style now and it's gonna be the style and I just, need to jump in? Or are we gonna miss it? Is it like a fad that I can just like run through? It's just like a fad that I don't even have to touch on. I can just be like, yeah, I still wear my jean down. I've even trained Breck, dude, like after he puts on his shoes, he pulls his jean down, but it's mostly because you just look like a dipshit. I just feel like if you're not particularly trying to put your jean like behind your tongue, like that's what the cool kids did when we were younger, right? They tried to like pull out the tongue of their J, right? They would like try to take the tongue and make it really big of their Timberland and then put their jean behind it. You know what I mean? If you're not doing that, I feel like you need to put the jean around the shoe. Like the jean needs to lay fully around the shoe. And I can't leave the house without doing that. Like I have to do that. And I'd be curious to see what everybody else does. What do people do? Do you fold the jean? Do you fold the jean at the bottom? Or again, your khaki, if you're Dr. Dre with a cuff and a crease? Or do you leave it down? You think it belongs down? Or you even, like I said, the old school 90s where you like put it behind, where like you pull up the tongue of your Timberland, you pull up the tongue of your J1, and then you put it behind there. I think it just belongs around. It just looks better. I guess if I had just like, I would have to have just the right outfit, and even still, I don't think I'd do it because I'd feel more confident with my jean bottom in the correct place. I know it's like the style. I don't know. So are capris in Europe, right? Like men wear capris all the time in Europe, but you don't see that everywhere. I guess you do see it some places, right? Like style places. Like I bet like New York, you see that more in like New York, guys wearing capris and shit like that. I guess you just have to be bad. You just have to know you're bad. You just have to be like, yep, I'm a man, and yep, I'm wearing fucking capris because it's the stylish shit. Yep, I'm rolling the bottom of my jeans because my fucking shoes are so cool. I don't know. I'm not there yet. You guys there? Let me know if you're there. Get there. Hopefully we can get there together. I'll be right back. I'm back. I don't really have that much else to say. The only other thing I was thinking about was like microfiber towels, which is not that important. What else did I have on my mind? One of those things that I feel like is like a tired subject, but one of those things that everybody kind of realizes in their life is like eventually you start to either take on the things that you hated about your parents, or you start to kind of adopt at least some of the things that you didn't like about your parents. And I'm not necessarily saying I didn't like, but I know that like one of those things for me that I noticed is like my grandpa would always give me the hardest time about wasting shit. Like he was the worst about wasting stuff. Like you did not want to try to waste food or drink or anything like that around him. And then eventually when my dad came into my life, he was the same way. He was like, if you you know what I mean? Because like when you're a kid, you're fucking wasteful and dumb. Like you open a soda, you drink a couple sips of it, and then you open another one. You know what I mean? And he would get really mad about that. And it's like nowadays, I guess I'm like the same way. You know what I mean? And I hate to see myself doing it because I remember how dumb I thought it was. I remember just like this guy fucking yells about the dumbest stuff. Like this guy's angry about the stupidest stuff that doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like, so what? I didn't finish all the drink. Like, why are we making such a big fucking deal about it? You know? And then it's like, now I'm a dad and I buy the food and like I literally see my money going into the garbage. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, and especially with like inflation, I mean, I don't know if it was, they said like it was the highest that it's ever been last year, you know? So it's like, excuse me, it was the highest that it's been in many years last year. It was the highest that it's been over a long period of time. And so my point in saying that is we're even spending more on food than say we were in the past. And, I hate to see myself get bothered by it. I'd be curious to see if anybody else is just like, you know, what your policy on that is at your house, or what do you do when you see your kid? Because you know they're not like, but I feel like I can't finish everything all the time. You know what I mean? Because my first thought is, I guess a lot of like dads in my situation and stuff would just be like, yeah, I expect my kid's not going to finish all their food and I eat the rest of it. And I do that a lot. Like that's one of my biggest excuses. Like I know I talked about like binging or going off or like losing my shit and eating 7 croissants all of a sudden. But like other times, the only other excuse I give myself is I'm like, well, he didn't finish his sandwich and I don't want to waste that sandwich. You know what I mean? So I'll eat the sandwich, you know? And it's like, sometimes I don't allow myself to do that, but I don't know. my point in saying that is I hate wasting shit, but I think I let it bother me too much. You know what I mean? Because, like, what is that? There was that movie, 3,000 Miles to Graceland or whatever, where he's like, there's starving kids in Africa. And he's like, you going to send them my fries? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you can't justify the fact that you couldn't necessarily just, like, get them to somebody that actually needed them at the time. But it's like, technically we're somebody that needs them. You know what I mean? You just are satiated at the moment and you feel like you've had enough food. And it just seems like such a dumb thing, but it does make me angry. It truthfully makes me angry. I even told my son here recently, and it may be crazy, and you can tell me if I overstepped, but like, it seemed like he was rushing to try to play his electronics rather than say eating. And I was like, you can't play your shit until you finish your food. So now it's like where it's like, but it's like, I don't want him to eat past when I don't want him to be in the habit of when his body says, hey man, you're full. You can stop eating. I don't want him to be in the habit of stuffing himself so full, because now that I think about it, I did that when I was a kid. I remember now that I'm talking about it, times sitting at my grandma and grandpa's dinner table, because again, my grandpa was the first person that it really started to happen with, and shoving my face full of my last bites of food that I just did not fucking want. And again, I don't think that's good. I mean, you're just stretching out your stomach. I mean, whatever it is, who knows? I'm a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I can't say that it's necessarily bad in some way that I can prove, but my thought is just, for sure, you shouldn't keep eating when you know you're done. But also, I hate wasting food. And it's like some stuff you just don't want to keep. Like, you know what I mean? Say I cut up some like fucking cheese for him and he doesn't eat all the cheeses. Like, you don't really want to take cheese that you put out and put it back in the fridge. I think you're only allowed to do that like twice per food standard rules. And I know technically a lot of those food safety rules, like, I don't think you can't make like beef tartare. Like, you can't make beef tartare, can you? Per food safety rules. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't spread butter on bread. If you are going to eat bread, you can't spread butter on it if it's not room temperature. You know what I mean? So like, I get that there's some rules in the whole food safety thing that kind of, you don't want people to die. I get it. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's some things that's like, we gotta, you know what I mean? I don't want people to die. That's the deal, right? But I don't know why we were talking about that. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, wasting food. I just fucking right. So it's like, sure, I could put it in the fridge. I could save it. I could set it in the fridge for a period of time and then make him. But even I don't like being that guy. I don't want to be. I've heard it, because I know that that's the answer for some people. The answer for some people is, they're going to eat it for dinner, then they're going to eat it for breakfast, then they're going to be sent in the lunch. You know what I mean? And it's like, I can't do that. So I guess that's the thing. I guess some people just have more stern rules, and they're like, no, you're not going to waste food. If you don't eat it now, you're going to eat it later, and then they just train their kid that way. But I guess I want to think of heart, but again, I just think of myself. I'm fairly good at it now. I think as you grow older, again, when you start buying shit, you're just like, I don't want to, I see my own money. Like, even if sometimes it'd be change, you know what? That's another thing. Oh, that's a fucking another thing. Another thing that I thought of recently. I was going to say, I see my money going in the trash can. And I was within my next thing to say, what I wanted to say is, I'm a fucking cheapskate. But you know what I realized? I call myself a cheapskate, and I just want to be super fucking clear. And nobody's probably going to make it to this point in the video, so nobody's going to know this, and so it won't matter, but I guess I'll put it out there at least. I say things like I'm a cheapskate, right? In the sense that, like, my thought is, well, that means, that gets the idea across of, like, what I mean by I'm a cheapskate. But no. Now, I have realized, again, and it actually relates back to here and there, doing a little side hustle with the DoorDash thing, trying to deliver some DoorDash stuff. I have had the opportunity where my entire life I never was going to go into fast food. I've never done restaurants or anything like that. I've done guest service. I've worked at hotels where we served food, but I don't think it's the same. I have not had the opportunity to deal with as many, say, people that like you serve food to. And again, I'm just dropping it off, so I guess I'm just the delivery guy in this cases, but like I call myself a cheapskate, right? And I realized that could be misinterpreted, because that to me means I don't fucking eat out. I don't go buy that shit. But you know what I realized? I always thought, I was like, how does everybody have the money to eat fast food and eat at restaurants and have food delivered to their door all the time? Because and you know what it is? It's because I worked in guest services. My bosses were like managed bars and things like that. If I got like a drink and I tipped under $5 for one drink, I felt like a piece of trash. Like if I was really poor and I was tipping $2 or $3 per drink, I felt like a total piece of shit. And again, that's like, but most of the time it's like I'd be tipping like, $5. There was times that you'd tip like $12 for one drink. Just, like, hey man, I'm eating out. You have to serve everybody here. But my point in saying that, I was like, how does everybody do that all the time? And now I have realized, dude, there are people that literally think like, oh yes, I should, I need to eat. Not only do I need to eat, it can't be just something at home and something that I create. It needs to be fast food. So not only do I need to eat, but it needs to be fast food. And then not only do I need fast food, that fast food needs to be brought to my fucking door. It needs to be brought to where I live. I can't go get it, but I don't need to pay anybody any extra. And you just realize like, holy fuck, there are people that are doing this. Like I remember when I was younger, I had friends like that, but I thought it was just because we were young. And like I remember one time my sister lost her mind because like not only did my friend who was in charge of the bill not tip, but he also made a huge mess. He was like brought a shitload of it was like at a buffet type place, which again you're thinking like, well, it's because you're eating in trailer trash places, but it was like a buffet place, and he brought like a whole cup of sprinkles back to the table and dropped all the sprinkles everywhere. So like the entire booth and like floor and everything was covered in sprinkles. So not only did he not tip, but he also made a huge mess, which trying to clean up sprinkles, I guess unless you use a fucking shop vac, is going to be a total bitch. But I just can't believe there's literally people that they think that their fast food should be delivered to their door, and sometimes it'll be like an hour round trip, like where I left the restaurant and I drive 30 minutes into another town, and so like 30 minutes back to that area, and they don't tip, and I'm just like, holy fuck, dude, it's unreal. I mean, it's not at this time my only source of income, so that's good, but like say it was for somebody, or like say, you know that these are the same type of people that go into restaurants, and you see these videos on TikTok, or these videos, I don't have TikTok, but you see them even on the news, where like a TikTok story got so much attention that everybody's looking at it, or some sort of social media posting where somebody had like a bill of a large amount and they've basically done no tip whatsoever, or tip very little. And I just don't know. I've had this one person where many times I've delivered more than 4 meals to her. So at least 3 times I've delivered more than 4. 2 of them it was more than 4. The other time it was actually just 1 pizza. And then she tipped 0 the first couple times, and then 50 cents. And that makes me think of like in Gone in 60 Seconds, when they're about to steal that guy's car, and he tips him 50 cents, and he's like, oh, you can keep those quarters, you know what I mean, like, or whatever he says. But oh man, I don't imagine, like I said, I was gonna make to this point in the video, but if you did and you are that piece of shit, get your act together, man. That is unfucking acceptable. That is absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you don't have money to tip, like, dude, so this is the deal. in my whole thing, if you sucked, if you're terrible, you get 30%. If you're the worst ever at whatever you did, you get 30%. I even tip the people at the places where it's just like, you don't really deserve a tip. Like, it's not like you're, I guess like with food and drink and stuff like that, they're like serving you over and over again. Sometimes at like, I don't know, like the dispensary, I'm just like, fuck, how much should I really give? Like, should I really give that much, But I still tip. It's just not 30%. But other than that, it's like 30% means you sucked. Like, if you get 30%, it means you were the worst. So, I don't know. I just hope there's nobody else out there doing that. I just hope I just got the luck of the draw. And that's where it's like, then I'm so fortunate I'll listen to like, something like George St. Pierre says, where he's just talking about being positive. And I'm like, thank God I heard that after that happened. Because otherwise, I think he just basically had said like, nobody likes every aspect of their job. And that's totally true. You know what I mean? It's like whoever likes every single part of everything. So, it's like if I'm using that to make a little extra money, that's a silly thing to give a fuck about. You know what I mean? Like, get on with the next order. There's something else to do. There's something else to make money on. You know what I mean? If you get caught up on that, it's not going to help. But anyway, I'm not going to keep you guys anymore. I'm happy that you tuned in. I hope that you'll subscribe. I hope that you'll like the video. I hope that you'll come back next week, and I look forward to chatting with you then. And I love you, and I hope you have a great time, whatever time it is. I was going to say night, but it may be morning, it may be evening, it may be whatever other times. But I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.